My parents told me to skip my graduation walk because my sister couldn't handle another day being overshadowed. So I took my diploma, packed my car, and left before sunset. 18 months later, she saw what I'd built without them and lost control in front of everyone. Hey, before we dive in, if you've been enjoying these stories, I need a small favor. Just hit subscribe. It helps us keep going, keep improving, and keep bringing you better content every time. We're building this with you. Now, let's begin. My parents asked me to skip my own graduation so my sister wouldn't feel bad. I skipped the state instead, built a fabrication business from a borrowed welder and a rented bay, and when she finally saw it, she didn't congratulate me. She threw a clipboard off my front counter and screamed in a parking lot full of strangers. My name is Grant. I'm 26. I own a metal fabrication shop in Ashburn, Tennessee. I need to tell you how I got here. Growing up, there was a pattern in my family, and it started so early that I thought it was just how families worked. My mother had this way of steering every conversation. If something good happened to me, she wouldn't ignore it. That would have been too obvious. She'd acknowledge it, hold it in the air for about 2 seconds, and then gently redirect the room toward my sister, Brooke. I remember one specific dinner. I was 16. I just found out I got accepted into the advanced engineering program at school. Only 12 kids from the district got in. I told my parents at the table. My dad said, "That's great, bud." My mom smiled and said, "We're proud of you." And then, before the sentence even finished landing, she turned to Brooke. "Sweetheart, how did your audition go? I've been thinking about it all day." Brooke's audition was for a community theater production of Grease. She didn't get the part. She got the understudy for the understudy, which basically meant she'd be in the audience. The rest of dinner became about comforting Brooke, brainstorming what she could try next, my dad suggesting voice lessons. I sat there eating mashed potatoes while my acceptance letter sat folded in my back pocket, already old news. By the time dessert came out, nobody remembered what I'd said at the beginning of the meal. That was the rhythm, every time. Senior year, I graduated third in my class. In the car on the way to dinner, my mom said, "Let's not bring up the ranking tonight. Brooke's been having a tough semester." I didn't bring it up. I ate my steak and watched Brooke tell a 20-minute story about a coworker while my mom leaned in like she was hearing a confession. I went to college for mechanical engineering. 4 years, magna cum laude, dean's list every semester. Far enough from home that the pattern thinned out, but my mom would still call every Sunday and pivot to Brooke within 5 minutes. Enough about your classes, let me tell you what Brooke's dealing with this week. Brooke was 2 years younger than me. She went to a community college 40 minutes from our parents' house, started 3 different programs, finished one, got an associate's degree in general studies. It took her 4 years to finish a 2-year degree, and I'm not saying that to be cruel. I'm saying it because of what happened in May, the spring I graduated. Brooke also finished her associates. Same month. My parents threw her a party, catered, 30 guests, a custom cake with her name on it in purple frosting. My dad set up folding tables in the backyard and strung lights between the fence posts. Relatives drove in from 2 hours away. Uncle Dennis brought a banner. My mom hired a photographer for the first hour. At that party, one of my aunts asked my mom, "Are you doing anything for Grant's graduation too?" My mom paused for half a beat, smiled, and said, "Oh, he decided the ceremony wasn't really his thing. You know Grant, low key." This was 10 days before the ceremony. I hadn't decided anything yet, but the story was already being written without me in it. My graduation was on a Saturday. My parents didn't plan anything. My mom put a card on the kitchen counter. I found it on Thursday, leaning against the coffee maker. My dad's handwriting inside. My mom's signature. Brooke's line was blank. She hadn't signed it. I stood in the kitchen holding that card for a long time. I flipped it over, looked at the blank line where her name should have been, put it in my bag, didn't say anything. Then Thursday night, 3 days before the ceremony, my parents sat me down in the living room. My dad was on the couch. My mom stood near the window, arms crossed, doing that thing where she looks at the floor when she's about to say something she knows is wrong. "We've been talking," she said, "about Saturday." I waited. Brooke's been having a really hard time with the comparisons. People keep asking her about your degree, your honors. It's been affecting her. She's not sleeping well. I still waited. Why she can't handle another day where you're the one people are clapping for? My dad said nothing. He sat there with his hands between his knees, staring at the carpet like something interesting was happening in the fibers. "We think it would be better if you didn't walk. You can still get your diploma. Just pick it up from the office. We'll celebrate at home, all of us, together. Something quiet." I looked at my dad. He didn't look up. "So you're asking me to skip my graduation," I said. Not a question. Just making sure the words were in the room where everyone could hear them. "We're asking you to think about your sister. I've been thinking about her for 24 years. My mom's face tightened. That's not what I mean, and you know it. What do you mean then? I mean one afternoon, a few hours. You skipped the walk. I pick up the diploma on Monday, and nobody has to sit through a ceremony where Brooke feels like she's watching everyone celebrate someone else. She threw her a party 10 days ago. 30 people, a cake, a photographer. That was different. How? My mom looked at my dad. He still hadn't moved. She looked back at me. Brooke needs this, Grant. She's your sister. And I'm your son. What do I need? She didn't have an answer for that. My dad shifted on the couch. Still didn't look up. I nodded. Not because I agreed, because I was done. Something clicked shut inside my chest, like a latch on a toolbox. Clean, final, mechanical. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe and tell us in the comments what city you're watching from. I went to my room, pulled the bag out from under my bed. It was already half packed. 2 changes of clothes, Knott's a phone charger, my laptop, and a folder with my lease paperwork from an apartment I'd been looking at online. I didn't know it at the time, but I'd been getting ready to leave for weeks. I just hadn't known what I was waiting for. Now I did. I didn't pack the graduation card. Then I went back and got it from the kitchen counter and put it in the side pocket of the bag. I don't know why. Maybe I needed proof. Friday morning, I drove to campus, picked up my diploma from the registrar's office. The woman behind the counter looked at my name, checked her screen, and smiled. "Congratulations," she said. She was the only person who said it that day. I thanked her. She didn't know that. She didn't know she was the entire ceremony. I folded the diploma sleeve into my bag, walked to the parking lot. Loaded 3 boxes and 2 trash bags of clothes into my Honda Civic. The boxes had books, a few tools my grandfather left me, and a desktop hard drive with every engineering project I'd done in 4 years. I drove past the ceremony venue on my way out of town. The parking lot was empty. They were still setting up chairs inside. I didn't slow down. By sunset, I was 200 miles south and the gas tank was below half. I stopped at a station outside of Murfreesboro, filled up, bought a water and a bag of almonds, and sat on the hood of my car watching the sky turn orange behind a Waffle House sign. My phone sat in the cup holder inside. I hadn't checked it in 3 hours. Didn't feel the need to. Nobody called that night. Nobody called the next day. Nobody called the next week. 3 weeks passed. I checked my phone every night before bed. Nothing from my parents, nothing from Brooke. 21 days. The house sealed over the gap like water filling a hole. I stopped checking after week 3. I'd landed in Ashburn, Tennessee because a guy I knew from an engineering internship had a cousin who owned an industrial strip off the highway. Small units, metal roofs, gravel lots. Not the kind of place you'd put on a postcard, but the rent was $1,200 a month and the bay had 3-phase power and a concrete floor rated for heavy equipment. The first month was ugly. I had a borrowed welder, a folding chair, and a concrete floor that smelled like motor oil and old rain. No clients, no leads. I welded scrap into shapes nobody ordered just to keep my hands moving. I burned through rod, learning what commercial fabrication actually demanded, which was different from the clean math of engineering school. The welds had to hold weight, not just pass an exam. The cuts had to fit real walls, not paper drawings. I ruined 2 pieces before I got a joint right on the 3rd. Nights were the hard part. The bay was quiet after dark. I'd eat gas station food at the folding chair and look at the concrete walls and wonder if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. Then I'd pick up the welder and make something else. The wondering stopped when the arc was running. My first real job came through a wrong number. A guy needed a bracket repaired on his loading dock. Emergency call. He'd dialed a different shop that had closed. I quoted too low because I didn't know what I was doing yet. Drove out in a borrowed truck. And I fixed the bracket in 90 minutes and he paid me in cash. $160. I sat in the truck afterward and counted the bills 3 times. Drove to the hardware store and bought $50 worth of welding rod. The second job came from the same guy 3 weeks later. His neighbor needed a gate hinge replaced. 45 minutes, $80. The third job came from a bulletin board at the industrial supply store. Someone needed stair treads welded for a warehouse. That one took 2 days and paid $600. I was learning the math. Every job was a classroom and a paycheck at the same time. 2 months in, I got a text from my cousin Megan. We'd grown up close. She'd been at the graduation ceremony. She saw my empty seat. 4 reserved chairs with my last name on the reservation list. Nobody in any of them. She texted me that night, but I didn't answer. Now, 2 months later, she tried again. "Hey, I hope you're finding what you need. Your mom told everyone you needed some space. We're all rooting for you." I read it twice. Needed some space. That was their version. They turned my exit into their generosity. I put the phone down, went to the shop, picked up the grinder and worked on a railing prototype until my arms were shaking and the metal was smooth. I didn't reply to Megan. Not yet. The next 3 months were about momentum. The loading dock guy told a friend who told another friend. Small jobs, a repair here, a custom bracket there, each one a little bigger than the last. I learned how to quote properly. Learned which suppliers would extend credit to a one-man shop with no track record. Learned that showing up on time mattered more than showing up cheap. By month 4, I had enough saved to buy a used CNC plasma table off a retired fabricator in Chattanooga. The controller board was fried. I rebuilt it myself in the shop over a weekend, wiring it from a schematic I found in an engineering forum. When the first cut came through clean on Monday morning, I sat in the folding chair and looked at it for 5 full minutes. Then Megan called, 3 months after her text. I almost didn't pick up, but something in the timing felt different. She sounded quieter, careful, guilty. I need to tell you something, she said. I waited. Your mom told Aunt Carol and Uncle Dennis that you were struggling, that the move was impulsive. She told them you were going through something and they were giving you the room to work it out. Silence from my end. They told people I was having a breakdown, I said. Flat. Not in those words, but that's what it sounded like. Everyone at Thanksgiving was worried about you. Like you were fragile, like your parents were being generous by not pushing. What did Brooke say? Brooke didn't correct it. She sat there and let your mom talk. Of course she did. Grant, I believed it too, for months. I thought you were somewhere getting help. I felt guilty for not reaching out more. You did reach out. I didn't answer. Because you were building a shop. Not because you were falling apart. Yeah. I was standing in the shop. A half-finished gate lay across 2 sawhorses. Steel tubes, mitered corners. A clean geometry that did exactly what it was designed to do. Thanks for telling me, Megan. Grant, are you okay? I'm welding gates. She paused. What? I'm good. I'll talk to you later. I hung up. Didn't slam the phone, didn't throw anything, just went back to the gate. The anger was in my hands. It came out through the arc, through the metal, through the sparks that hit the concrete and died there. That was where it went. That was where it stayed. 5 months in, a contractor named Frank Herrera walked into my shop. Broad shoulders, work boots that had actually been worked in. He needed custom railings for a commercial renovation downtown. 16 sections, brushed steel finish, tight deadline. He walked the length of the bay, looked at the railing samples I'd mounted on the wall, ran his hand along a weld seam, checked the grind. Looked at the plasma table. Who taught you? He asked. School. And this floor. He nodded, handed me the spec sheet. I quoted the job accurately this time, material plus labor plus timeline, no discount. He didn't negotiate. He pulled out a checkbook, wrote a deposit, tore it along the perforated line, and set it on the counter. Then he shook my hand. He came back 4 more times that year. Each job bigger than the last. The second one was a staircase railing for a loft conversion. The third was a set of structural supports for a mezzanine in a co-working space. He referred 2 other contractors. One of them called me on a Friday afternoon and said, Frank told me you don't cut corners. That true? I said, come see the shop. He came Monday, walked the bays, looked at the welds on a sample piece I'd mounted by the door, nodded once. Left a deposit on the counter. I hired a part-time helper from the local trade school, a kid named Davis who didn't talk much and showed up at 7 every morning without being asked. I showed him how to prep material and how to clean a weld joint without grinding through the base metal. Within a month, he was running the plasma table on his own while I handled the custom work. We developed a rhythm. I cut in the morning. He prepped in the afternoon. By closing time, the bay floor was swept and the next day's material was staged on the sawhorses. I bought a second welder. Put up a sign out front. My name. My shop. Vinyl letters on the glass door. Visible from the road. Visible from the highway if you were looking. The morning after the sign went up, I stood in the parking lot with a coffee and looked at it. My last name in white letters on glass. Nobody gave it to me. Nobody approved it. It was just there because I put it there. 8 months after I left, my mother called. I answered. Grant, I need the login for the old streaming account. Your father can't figure it out. Which account? The family one. The password got changed somehow and your father's been trying to reset it for an hour. It's the same password it's always been. Capital G, the zip code, exclamation point. Oh, let me try that. I heard her typing. That worked. Thanks, honey. Sure. Okay, talk to you later. 47 seconds, 8 months of nothing, and the first call was tech support. The shop kept growing. Month 9, month 10, month 12. More clients, more referrals. Frank brought his brother-in-law. You who owned a construction company across the county line. That contract opened a pipeline. Commercial jobs, bigger budgets, longer timelines. I bought a second welding bay setup and expanded the cutting station into the rear half of the unit. The landlord offered me the adjacent space at a discount because I was the only tenant who never paid late and the only one who kept the lot clean. The project wall filled up. I started photographing every completed job and taping the prints next to each other by the front counter in cheap frames from the dollar store. Railings, gates, brackets, panels, one custom fire pit for a dentist's backyard, a set of steel balcony rails for a condo developer. 30 photos by month 14. Each one a thing someone paid me to make. Each one evidence that the cover story was a lie. If anyone cared to drive down and look. Around month 15, a relative I barely knew, some second cousin on my dad's side named Warren, drove through Ashburn for a job interview. He passed my shop on the highway, saw the sign, my last name in vinyl letters on the glass. He pulled over, looked at the building, didn't come in, but he mentioned it at a family dinner back home. Casually, between the salad and the main course. Did you know Grant has a whole shop down there? Real setup, sign and everything. Megan told me later that the table went quiet. My mom set her fork down. My dad looked at his plate. Brooke asked what kind of shop, and nobody answered her. Warren kept talking, oblivious. Had his name right there on the glass. Nice spot, off the highway. Looked like he had a couple bays in there. Real equipment. My mom changed the subject to dessert, but the information was in the room now. It couldn't be unpivoted. I don't know exactly when Brooke found out the full scope of it or who gave her the address, but I know she didn't call. She didn't text. She drove. 4 hours on a Tuesday morning without telling our parents. She didn't pack a bag. She didn't have a plan. She got in her car and aimed it south like the highway owed her an answer. I was in the back bay running a bead on a hinge assembly when Davis walked up and waited for me to lift my mask. "Someone's out front," he said. "Says she's your sister." I set the torch on the bench, pulled off my gloves, hung the mask on its hook, walked to the front. My boots left prints on the concrete where grinding dust had settled overnight. She was standing in the middle of the shop floor, turning slowly, taking everything in. The bays, the CNC table, the tool wall with 50 hooks and every one of them holding something. The project photos. She was reading the wall. Her eyes moved from photo to photo, left to right, like she was counting them. Her jaw was tight. Her purse strap was twisted in her fist. She hadn't looked at me yet. She was looking at the client board by the register. Current month. Jobs listed in blue marker. Frank Herrera's company name near the top. 3 other contractors below it. A residential client at the bottom. Next to the board, the clipboard hung on its hook. The day's jobs listed in pencil. 2 deliveries. A site measurement at 1, a pickup at 4. "Hey, Brooke," I said from behind the counter. She didn't answer. But she was reading the clipboard now. Client names, delivery windows, revenue in motion, written in pencil on a piece of paper she'd never seen before. Frank walked in from the side lot carrying a box of anchor bolts for a job. He saw Brooke, saw me, didn't hesitate. "Morning, boss," he said on his way past the counter to the bay. "Boss." I saw it hit her. It landed in her shoulders first. They came up an inch. Then her breathing changed, shorter. Her grip on the purse strap went white knuckle. She turned and looked at me for the first time since she walked in, and her face was something I had never seen before. Not sadness, not anger, something underneath both. "You built this," she said. Not a question. Yeah. All of it. All of it. How? I showed up every day. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got." She looked at the project wall again, counted the photos. I watched her lips move slightly like she was trying to reach a number that made sense. She couldn't. "Who pays for this?" she asked. "Clients." "Who are these people?" She pointed at the client board. "Contractors, builders, a dentist who wanted a fire pit." "A dentist," she repeated, like the word didn't belong here. Then her hand shot out and smacked the clipboard off the counter hook. It hit the floor and the pages fanned out across the concrete. The job schedule. Frank Herrera, railing install, Wednesday, 8 a.m. Davidson Property Group, bracket delivery, Thursday noon. A pencil rolled under the display rack. "You weren't supposed to do this," she said. Her voice was climbing. "You were supposed to be struggling. Mom said you were struggling. She said you needed help." Mom says a lot of things. This isn't fair. She gestured at the shop, the walls, the bays, all of it. "This isn't fair, Grant. I've been trying to get my life together for 2 years and you just disappeared and built this. How is that fair?" Frank stopped what he was doing in the bay. Davis looked up from the bench. A client's truck was idling outside, driver still in the cab, watching through the windshield. "You always needed this," Brooks said. "The attention, the awards, the clapping. You couldn't just let me have one thing. You had to come down here and build a whole building just to prove everyone wrong." "I didn't build it to prove anyone wrong." "Then why?" "Because it needed building." She shook her head. Her eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying. She was vibrating, the kind of anger that doesn't know where to aim itself. She stepped toward the project wall and put her hand on one of the frames. A photo of a staircase railing I'd built for Frank's second job. Brushed steel, clean lines. "You always had to be the special one," she said. "The smart one. The one everyone talked about." I looked at her. The shop was quiet except for the ventilation hum and the tick of the cooling welder behind me. "You needed me smaller." 3 words. Her hand dropped from the frame. She stared at me. Then she stepped behind the counter toward the corkboard where I kept the specs and invoices pinned up. I put my hand flat on the counter edge. "Don't." She stopped. Her eyes were scanning the wall behind me. The deposit slips. The purchase orders. The quote sheets. She was looking for something fake. Something borrowed. Something that proved this was temporary. "You don't get to have this," she said. Her voice was shaking. "You don't get to just leave and have this." "I didn't leave, Brooke. You had me removed." She grabbed her purse off the counter and walked to the door. Hit the glass with her palm instead of using the handle. Crossed the parking lot fast, keys already out, got in her car and sat there for almost a full minute before she started the engine. I watched from the counter. She didn't look back. Both hands on the wheel. She pulled out onto the highway heading north. Frank walked to the counter with a packing slip in his hand. He looked at the empty lot where her car had been. Then he looked at the project wall. Then at me. "Doesn't seem like you're the problem," he said. He set the packing slip down. Walked back to the bay without another word. Davis picked up the clipboard from the floor. One page was torn at the corner where the clip had caught it. He smoothed it out, clipped it back on the hook, and went back to work. That night, my mother called. I answered because I knew what it would be. "Grant, you need to understand how this looks." Same voice, same management tone, same system that had been operating since I was 16 and my engineering acceptance got traded for Brooke's failed audition. The pivot. Except now the pivot was aimed at the meltdown, trying to smooth it, reshape it, redirect it into something she could manage. "I do," I said. Silence on her end. "Your sister is very upset. She feels like you set that up on purpose." I was welding a hinge assembly when she walked in. She said there were people there, watching. "It's a business, Mom. There are always people here." She said you had someone call you boss in front of her. "That's Frank. He calls me that because it's my shop. You could have handled it differently." She drove 4 hours without telling anyone. She walked into my business and threw things off my counter. What should I have handled differently? This whole situation, this shop, the way you just left, it's been very hard on the family. "Okay. Don't you care how this affects us? I have a delivery at 7 tomorrow. I need to go." She waited. I could hear her breathing. I could almost see her standing in the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear. I'm trying to find the edge of my sentence where she could insert a pivot toward Brooke. "Will you at least call your sister?" "No." "Grant. Good night, Mom." I hung up, put the phone on the counter, face down, went to the break table and ate a sandwich. The shop was quiet. The bays were dark. The fluorescent light above the front counter buzzed the way it always did after 10. Over the next 2 weeks, Megan stopped calling my mother. Didn't announce it, didn't send a text, didn't make a speech about taking sides. She just stopped picking up when the number showed, stopped relaying messages, stopped being the pipeline between my mother's narrative and the rest of the family. I didn't ask her to do that. I didn't even know about it until later. She decided on her own, and when I asked her about it months after, she said, I spent 2 Thanksgivings feeling sorry for you because your mom told me you were falling apart. You were building a business. I'm done being her telephone." Megan did call me one more time. She told me what Brooke said on the 4-hour drive home. Brooke called a friend on speaker and talked for most of the ride. She said she was ambushed. She said Grant had people there on purpose. She said the whole thing was a setup designed to humiliate her. She told her friend you had clients there just to make her feel small, Megan said. "I had clients there because it's a Tuesday and I run a business." "I know." Megan paused. But she also said one other thing. Toward the end of the drive. Almost like she was talking to herself. Her friend didn't respond to it. "What?" She said, "He wasn't supposed to be able to do that." Megan didn't explain it. She just let the sentence sit between us like something heavy set down on a table. I didn't respond to it, but I heard what it meant. The weeks after that were quiet. I didn't change my number. Didn't block anyone. I just stopped treating the phone like it mattered. It sat on the counter while I worked. Sometimes it buzzed, sometimes it didn't. I had deliveries to coordinate and metal to cut and estimates to write and a business that needed my hands more than my family ever needed my presence. On a Thursday afternoon, 3 weeks after Brooke's visit, a new client called. Brewery renovation on the east side of town. Custom bracket set for a mezzanine railing. Load-bearing, structural. The kind of job that pays well because most people can't do it right. Aita. The guy described what he wanted while I grabbed a pencil and flipped the clipboard to a blank page. Same clipboard. Dent still in the metal clip from where it hit the floor. I sketched while he talked. Dimensions, load requirements, powder coat finish, matte black. I quoted a number based on material, labor, and a 2-week timeline. He said, "That works. When can we do a site visit?" "Thursday, 10 a.m. See you then." I hung up. Wrote it on the schedule page. Thursday, 10 a.m. brewery. Pencil on paper. The clipboard hung back on its hook. The bay hummed behind me. Outside, a flatbed passed on the highway heading south. I pulled the next spec sheet from the drawer and started the estimate for Friday's job.